First of all, we want to thank everyone for being here this beautiful morning in the town of Hanson. We want to thank the town and their officials for the hard work in being able to submit through the Plymouth County CARES program. We're here to present a check on behalf of the program to the town. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Hanley just to say a few quick words of welcome. We're thrilled that Representative Cutler is able to join us. I know he wants to add a few words as well, and we'll go from there. But Commissioner Hanley, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Not at all. Thank you, Treasurer O'Brien, and thank you all for coming here today. It's a nice day for us to see the sweat equity pay off tangibly, and I want to thank the town of Hanson for preparing such an easy application in terms of processing, because the only delay we would have is an incomplete application. You know, it wasn't an easy decision for the county commissioners to take on the CARES Act, because there was a lot of sentiment very high up that we shouldn't take this money. But we knew that we had an educated workforce, and we had the only certified treasurer, county treasurer in the Commonwealth. So we were trying to help the governor at the time and take a little off his plate. And there was some decision making that had to be done, and some actual soul searching. And if I may be able to take a moment of personal privilege, you know, as an elected official, sometimes it's lonely, and you can only reach out to another public official who understands what you go through when you make tough decisions. And I want to thank Josh Cutler, because at that point in my career, I said this is a make or break moment for the county, because so much pressure was applied by the executive office on our ability to do this. And I had a very personal conversation with Josh. He's a friend of mine, but more importantly, he's a colleague, and he's a colleague who brings an insight that we have 27 communities, and we deal with lots of reps and senators, and some reps are good and some aren't, quite frankly. But if it wasn't for Josh Cutler, I want to say this, we wouldn't have this program as far as Greg Hanley's concerned, and the commissioners and my other colleagues. You know, this was not an easy decision, but aren't we so glad to have pulled this off? It's such a resounding success, and to be able to go around the county, to see the smiles on people's faces of beleaguered people trying to deal with the pandemic response. No one knew how to deal with this. No one had a PhD in pandemic. But I can just tell you, Plymouth County has delivered the goods for its member communities, and guys like Josh and Senator Brady, when you got those folks in the foxhole with you, it means a lot, and I got to say, it was a difference maker in terms of decision making. So thank you, Representative, and thank Senator Brady on behalf of the commissioners.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hanley. And I'm glad you mentioned the delegation, because this doesn't happen unless we have that partnership we need. And what was relayed back to us is the county understands the needs of our community. This pandemic isn't going to be short-lived, and we are the best resource to provide financial assistance to our communities. And I'm glad that Commissioner Hanley references Senator Brady and his office, and particularly Representative Cutler. Representative Cutler is a leader up on Beacon Hill. He understands what communities need. He always has our back as we try and do what is necessary to help our communities deal with the pandemic and other financial challenges they may face. So we're thrilled that they're both here. I know the senator had a meeting with Senate Ways and Means, so his office is represented, and Representative Cutler is here as well. So Representative Cutler, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Commissioner Hanley, Commissioner Wright. I would just echo the sentiments of my colleagues, and I can tell you as someone who sits on the Ways and Means Committee to say to us, if we had sent all that money back to the state, it would not have come back to Plymouth County the same way. So it's because, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about that decision, but it was the right decision for Plymouth County, for the town of Hanson, for the towns that I represent, and it's because of the courage of Commissioner Hanley, Commissioner Treasurer O'Brien, Commissioner Wright, and the rest of your board that happened. So thank you. Kudos to the Board of Selectmen here in Hanson, standing next to good friend Selectman Matt Dyer, Chairman Kenny Mitchell, the whole board, and under the leadership of John Stanbrook, our town administrator, and the staff, done a great job, and we're so pleased. This is the first of several checks that will be coming back to the town of Hanson. We're sir, and we appreciate all the work that you've done. And I know this is a challenging year, but we're doing everything we can to make it to lighten that burden and make it easier. So thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. Appreciate the time.
Well, when you said we had to make sure we got money back to the 3 communities you represent. We heard that message, and here we are today. And we promised we'd do it on a sunny day. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, Ed, on behalf of Senator Brady.
No, Mike appreciates everything you've done and agrees with having the money dispersed by the county because we know where the money needs to go.
Great. Well, so the moment we've all been waiting for, the actual check presentation. Now, people say, how come you don't bring the big check? Because we're very frugal at the county. we are actually delivering the check. I'm going to hand it to Matt. The selectman will get a picture. I want a picture with me holding it and him holding it. And then once that picture's taken, everybody give me I want a picture with just him holding the check. So we can prove that it is in the hands of the town of Hanson. So they received a check for, I usually read out the amount, $34,280.75. And as the representative and senator and the commissioners have mentioned, that is in response to pandemic, some PPE they needed and other things that they needed to have. So we appreciate it. In just a moment, I'm going to reintroduce Commissioner Wright, but I wanted to echo something that Representative Cutler mentioned about the team here in Hanson. I know, Selectmen, you know what a great team you have, but I can tell you it's a pleasure dealing with John and with Jeannie as the issues come forward. They're very responsive. The application was well done. You probably can relay that back to the rest of your board. As you know, Jean also serves on our Finance Committee for the Mayflower Municipal Health Group, so your team here in Hanson is actively involved in county-wide issues on behalf of the town. So you've got a great team. I didn't know if you guys wanted to say anything on behalf of the town of Hanson, and then we have one other presentation for you.
Oh, sure. So I would like to say thank you very much to our partners at the county as well as Beacon Hill. In these times where it doesn't seem that politics work, this shows it does work and that we can come together and we can come and serve our constituents to better serve them here, not in the town hall, but all throughout the town and all throughout the region. So I just would like to say thank you very much. I know we greatly appreciate it, but also too I want to point out our department heads and our town administrator and Greer and Jean and all the other department heads who had come out. They've made sure that to get all the paperwork done. They stayed late. I know there's been a couple times I drive by town hall going, oh, I have to send John home. So I'm always pulling in saying, go home, but he has, oh, just one more thing. So I really appreciate all the teamwork that's done here in the town. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, and thank you. We really recognize Hanson for stepping up and securing some of these resources. At this point, I want you to introduce Commissioner Wright again and bring the selectmen back over. I'm going to turn it over to you, Sandy. We have one other presentation to make from the county to the town of Hanson. Sandy?
Yep, and I would just like to say thank you so much for having us here today, and also for our legislative delegation for your support. It's been great, and without you we wouldn't be able to do this. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for making Tom's job a little bit easier and having all your paperwork and applications ready for him. But I'd like to, I'd like to give you this map to the, have I got it upside down?
No, great.
I was going to say, wait a minute. In appreciation for all your efforts and support. And this map here is one of the newer ones with all the new railroads and all the newer highways. So thank you so much.
Hanson is truly the heart of Plymouth County.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
And of course, if anyone has any questions, as I'm sure
I just have a question. When's the next check?
Come back.
Just kidding.
Just one other thing I'd just like to say, of course, if you ever have any questions, you know that you can reach out to Tom. He's always readily available to you. And also, we want to make sure that you know PlymouthCountyCaresAct.com. And also, we greatly appreciate Tom for all he has done. He's worked endless hours, and we appreciate everything he's done. And that's why we're here today, is because of his hard work.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I appreciate that. So that's the end of the ceremony. I know the media was hoping to get a couple of quick comments and follow up. I know people are tight on time, so Representative Cutler, we've arranged for you to go first with the Hanson media, and then one of the commissioners or myself will
go
step
ahead.
in.
I got all the time.
You got all the time in the world. All right.
I'll stick around.
All right. Are you sure?
I'm happy to be here in Hanson. I'm literally walking to my office next door.
Perfect. Did you guys have any questions? Anything you needed from us?
So, being able to present the checks in person, that's something you've been doing countywide, and this is the first check in Hanson?
It is, and we're thrilled to be here on a beautiful day in the town of Hanson to present a check for a little more than $34,000 as part of the Plymouth County CARES program. I want to take a moment to thank the County Commissioners, Committee Chair Dan Pilata, Commissioner Hanley, Commissioner Wright, for recognizing the real importance of these resources and bringing them back to our local communities. As people are aware, the CARES Act was passed at the end of March, a $3 trillion federal package. And the commissioners recognized that we should, because we were eligible as a county, receive some of these resources so that we could disperse them back to the community. So this is our chance to be here in the town of Hanson and bringing those resources. We also have some very dedicated state partners. Senator Mike Brady has been a valuable resource to us in helping, and I cannot say enough about Representative Josh Cutler and his leadership. As I know Commissioner Hanley mentioned earlier, anytime we have any questions, anytime we need support, we know we can count on Representative Cutler. He's a great resource for us. As you heard as part of this presentation, not surprisingly, he was very quick to ask when the next check was coming. So I can report on behalf of the commissioners that Hanson has other applications in. We will be processing those. So this isn't our last time here in the town of Hanson to present a Plymouth County CARES check to the community.
As you mentioned too, the town of Hanson had a very organized, application that made it easier to sort through, it seemed like.
Yeah, we really want to give credit to the town for filling out the application. As Commissioner Wright mentioned, PlymouthCountyCares.com is the dedicated, transparent website that the commissioners set up for this program. A community has to fill out an application. It's a pretty detailed application, and the town of Hanson stepped up. John Stanbrook, the administrator, was great, and Gene Sullivan, the treasurer, they understood what needed to be done. They submitted a very thorough application, which made it easier for us to review and process, and I know the selectmen are pleased to hear that. They've got other applications in, and they're just as good.
So for the towns, these are unexpected expenses that can help towns address this pandemic. I mean, especially for PPE here in Hanson. What sort of things have you seen applications for?
Well, it's designed around reimbursement, so they were unanticipated COVID-related expenses that weren't considered in the budget. It's a reimbursement program, so the community has to go out, spend the money first, and then we reimburse. So some of the communities are doing long-distance learning. They're upgrading their computer modems and servers, and they're allowing remote participation for students at home. That's a 100% reimbursable cost that is a huge benefit to communities to make sure that the kids can matriculate and be educated during the pandemic.
And for Hanson, this is the first application of many, hopefully. But
yes.
It's what, $1 million for each town, or how does?
Well, it's weighted. It's by population, and then it's based on need and the number of cases that you have. We have set aside special funds for veteran services, council on aging, and libraries, because most of the budgets that we're dealing with have to do with police, fire, DPW, and then the school system. So sometimes those quality of life to the most vulnerable communities, department heads, if trying to get that straight. Council on Aging are an elderly people. They're people that are most at risk. So if there are programs that we can help, like Meals on Wheels, we find that there's been a high need for food banks, food relief, and by reimbursing the Council on Aging with their vans, they're able to go in and serve more people because they have the resources, knowing that they can serve their population outside their budget. So this is one of the proactive things that can be done. Veteran services, a lot of folks need veteran services, and the veterans agents would like to supplement their staff by doing so. And then of course libraries are a congregating area from 8 to 80, and it serves many needs. But yet when it comes to pandemic response, okay, it's not high on priority. But let's face it, there's a mental part of this, and if you can't get down to your local library to check out a book, or even, do a video, or just to meet other folks, it's a big thing. So it's working so well so far. So our biggest challenge remaining is whether or not people will spend up to their soft cap. So we created a formula by population, by need, and it's a pot of money. We've asked our member communities to give us an idea of whether or not they're going to spend up to that limit. So then if they can't, we can reallocate that money to other programming and hopefully develop more savings to communities on programs that they didn't anticipate.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'll just tell you, it's been very rewarding as a public official to work collegially with our delegation and with the town. I mean, you really get to know folks, and quite frankly, this could be a rehearsal for the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act is the next round of funding that the federal government is considering to bring lost revenue by way of taxation, property taxes, excise tax, any kind of tax that was revenue-based that pandemic affected. Right now, the Commonwealth is in the hole $6 billion. Okay, that money, they haven't even decided what the budget's going to be. So if we are able to work with the federal government and they allow the money to then trickle down the way it did with the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, because of this program, will allow us to get the money back into the member communities so much quicker than the state. And I have to be, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Tom O'Brien's team. I mean, we are getting money in a 2-week turnaround. Okay, there's other communities outside Plymouth County that are just not getting that money. So it's a good thing. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We're all in this together, I think, and at the end of the day, hopefully we'll survive this without too much more loss of life. So thank you for covering us. It means a lot to get this information out to the people so they understand what's going on. I think it's transparency is the biggest thing, and information is too. So I want to thank you guys, members of the press, for doing what you do too. Thank you.
Thank you. For the county commissioners, this is a partnership between the state, local, federal level. There's so many people coming together to make these, checks happen. And what's your thoughts on these partnerships?
That's 100% correct. I think we look in Washington, D.C. and sort of see some of the division that's happening. It's unfortunate. But here in Massachusetts, we do it right. We have, we have county government, we have local government, we have our state delegation, working with our federal officials, all in a bipartisan way, mind you. Democrats, you saw the Democrats and Republicans here today working together to solve problems, to bring funds back to our cities and towns like Hanson. Those funds are going to help this town get through, what is a difficult budget year. We're seeing that all over, but it's really going to help to have those extra funds. So I think in all the doom and gloom that we sometimes hear in Washington, there's a lot of good things happening here in Massachusetts, and what we saw today is a good example of that.
And here in Hanson with the schools, things like that, any funds, it almost seems like would help, with the PPE. This is a start, and then
absolutely, we saw Senator Brady and I working with Governor Baker's team and the legislature. We actually got an extra $400,000 for the Women Hanson schools for PPE expense and remote learning expenses through a different budget. So, we're doing everything we can to get as many dollars back to our cities and towns. We know it's going to be a challenging year, and we know that our local budget folks are working hard, and we're working just as hard to try to help them.
And with the state budget this year, there's talks of a deficit of what, $3 billion to $5 billion?
So actually, just yesterday we had a consensus revenue hearing update, and the numbers aren't quite as bad as we first were hearing, a few months ago. We're looking at a shortfall in the range of 1.8 to up to as high as $5 billion, which is a lot of money, but it's significantly less than the $6 to $8 billion numbers that we were hearing before. So that's some room for optimism. It's obviously going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, but I think hopefully the federal government will come through with some additional aid, stimulus, and the situation will stabilize here with COVID. But I think we're in better shape than we were just a few months ago.
And what's the next steps with the state budget? What still needs to be done?
So Governor Baker is going to submit a revised budget. Obviously, what we did in January is no longer really, relevant to what's happened after COVID. And so he's going to be submitting a revised budget. Our House Ways and Means Committee is already meeting, looking at those numbers. I suspect we'll have probably one more temporary budget to get us through to see a little bit more what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. with the federal government. And then we'll do a permanent budget for the rest of the year, based on the consensus revenues and the data that we have.
How long would the temporary budget be? Would it be like 3 months?
Another month.
I
suspect another month, yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you. And thank you guys for being out here and covering this and spreading the word. Appreciate it.
So today, the town of Hanson had received its first reimbursement from the CARES Act. And what this means is getting the necessary funds to purchase the proper PPE for not only our first responders, but our folks here at Town Hall and throughout town government, including the schools. And with the proper PPE and the proper procedures put in place, we're able to slowly reopen our community. And also, this money isn't just going to PPE, but it's also going towards our infrastructure here in the town, where we're able to purchase new servers so that our folks can work from home if needed, if we ever had to shut down again. And therefore, this will give us the flexibility here in the town to keep town government open even though our doors are closed. So today, it was a great day for the town of Hanson for the first check. Also, too, I want to make sure that we acknowledge our first responders and their commitment to our town and keeping us safe.